Before we go to who is Samson, we can go back to the history of Israel during that period. You know, in the book of the Judges, the children of Israel keep committing sin over and over, adulteries, and they keep following different gods, disobeying what the Moses and Joshua told them. So God decided to appoint judges to rule them. During that period, I think during the book of Judges, judges ruled Israel for about 350 years. But some scholars disagree with that because they say that's just not an accurate number of the years. Because if we take a Samson, for example, he ruled Israel for 20 years, and some scholars say that after 20 years, Samson is still, his influence kept ruling Israel for another 40 years. So it is kind of, we don't have something concrete or accurate to give us the exact number of years the judges rule Israel. Let's go back to Samson. I think most of us have read about him, and he's one of the favorite stories for the children in this book. Samson, a ruler of Israel. I steal some pictures from the internet. I hope don't get me don't get me in trouble, but this is what I'll say. Samson is one of the judges. He sat there, he ruled Israel for 20 years. And during his rule, Samson, if you read you read the book of Judges, Samson is one of the craziest judges I ever seen. Many people will say, to if we in our standard we say that he's a jerk. He he was like, you tell him to do something, he go and do the opposite. So he don't do exactly what you want him to do. He will do the opposite. And when we go back to his story, Samson is elected by God before the birth. His father was called Manoah, and his mother we don't know her name. And she played a big role because the angel of God came and talked to her. Didn't talk to the father, talked to the mother. And she played a big role, but they don't, like many of the ancient book of Israel, the women are always unknown. They don't, only few we know there, Deborah and few others, we know their name. And Samson's mother was unknown to us, her name, but we know how devoted she is, her piety and all her relationship with God. She's kind of more devoted woman to me than her husband even. So, and they are from the tribe of Dan. When the angel of the Lord appeared to her and the angel claimed that she is going to have a son, and that son is not just only to have a son, but that son is going to be the deliverer of the people of God from Philistines. And Philistines are the people who gave a hard time to Israel, not only just militarily and spiritually also, because they don't believe in the God of Abraham. They have their own gods. And the Israelites sometimes, they can slip away and start, worshiping the gods of the Palestine, gods of the highland. And Samson, when the angel of Lord appeared to her mother, told that she is going to have a Samson who can deliver Israelite from the hands of Philistine, and consecrated him to be a Nazarite. Nazarite are the people who devoted their life to God. And to be a Nazarite, there are certain rules. These rules you have to follow. They are like mystic, like a monks. You follow these rules. You don't have to drink any strong drinks or wine, no alcohol at all. You don't have to touch alcohol. And you don't, your hair, no razor can touch your hair. And the other thing is, you don't have to eat or touch any unclean things. That include dead bodies. You don't have to touch them. And if we look at these dead bodies, the dead bodies, even if your parent or someone from your family die, you don't have to come close to that body. You have to keep the rules, be strict with the rules. And if we look from the story of Samson, he is completely doing opposite of all these things. Samson is kind of, like I said, he is a jerk. Samson is a jerk. And this person, this individual Samson, his name has a meaning in Hebrew, means sunlight. In Hebrew, they call him sunlight. Shamshun means sunlight. In English, they call him Samson only, but in the sound of, in Arabic, we call him Shamshun. It's different sounds. It sounds closer to the Hebrew's name, Shamshun. Only English call him Samson. Is a different. It is kind of, his name is a prophetic statement, a bright light. Sunshine means bright light. He is going to give the light to Israel in the dark time. That's what his name means. Anyone have a comment here to add something or? Good. Okay, we move ahead. Then it comes to time Samson went to meet a woman in Temena. And this is the beginning of the crisis in his life. But any crisis in Samson's life, there is a God behind him. God was behind him, despite his foolishness and doing these crazy things. God is always behind him. And he went and met a woman in the Philistine woman. That woman in Temna, we don't know her name. We don't know even her name. And he came there, he asked, in the book of Judges, I think this is, chapter 14 to 20, if you read the book of Judges. Samson met that woman, and the beauty and the attraction of that woman just captured his heart, and he just went crazy and tell his parent that, I want that woman, marry her to me. Like he is giving orders to his parent, marry her to me. So this is one of the craziest things of Samson. And of course, his parent disagree with him. His parents disagree with him of this marriage, but he insisted that he's going to marry that woman, whether they like it or not. That is the life of his life. So he decided, and they have no choice. They have to agree. Someone with the strength like him can crush everybody. So of course, probably that's the reason they agree that okay, or perhaps the spirit have speaking, spoken to them. We don't know in the book because everything, once God is behind something, sometimes it happened in a crazy way. Samson went and married that woman. Then all the trouble started here. Samson, when they were going there, he attacked the lion. Lion attacked him, and he killed the lion with the bare hand. And the story says that he killed the lion, and after 3 days, when they went back, Samson came and found the honeycomb inside the lion and grabbed that honeycomb and eat the honey. And he took some of them to his parents, and his parents ate that too. But he did not tell them where he got that from. Yeah, he kept them behind the curtain. He didn't tell them anything. So this is one of the mistakes Samson have made, I think. He should not come close to the dead body. If you come to the dead body, the lion was dead for 3 days. If you come to the dead body, let me see my note about the dead body here. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to come to dead body. You stay away from dead body. Even funerals, you don't have to go. Throughout of the time of dedication as a Nazarite, you don't have to be close to the dead body. If one of your families die, brother, sister, father, or whoever died, you don't have to make yourself unclean and come close there. Because once you attend the funeral, you become unclean. And if you happen to be there by mistake, you have to offer yourself to the priest, one of the priests, and then you can offer the sin, follow the rules of Moses and sin offering and all this, and the priest will, present you and pray for you, and you once you obey this rule, then you become clean again. This is in the book of the Numbers, so you can, if you want to read more about that, you can read Numbers 6, chapter 6. You can find all this rule of Moses there in this book. No, too fast. Yes, that when they went to that Mary, so many things happened. Samson start with this his crazy puzzle solving, and these people fail, and his wife was able to convince him, and at the last minute he told her the secret, and she went and told, of course, the people and her people, and they came there and they answered the puzzle, and Samson get mad and went and kills kill 30 people and bring this grab their stuff and all this and come and have to give it to these people because they are winners. And this is the beginning of the problem. Then Samson went back home with his family and come back to his wife's place. His father-in-law, when he came back, he found that his father-in-law gave his wife to another man. So that outraged, he became outraged more, and he decided that he can do whatever he want to do. So he started revenging against the Palestinians and went and grabbed, like, I don't know.
Hey, Samson, is that
Yes.
is that a noise behind you?
What kind
It
of noise?
it sounds like a crowd. Is that in your place?
No.
Oh, whose place is it? Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Yes, Samson. Then after that, he grabbed like 30 foxes and tied them from the tail together and lit the fire on their tail and just let them loose on the field of grain and burn all these people's grain. And these people get mad. Of course, they want to revenge and kill Samson. And the story goes on. And Samson, of course, from there, he he become outraged and he never learned from the first. He never learned from these mistakes. And he went and the interesting part, he went back to the Palestine land because of course they're living together and the Palestinians are ruling Israel because the military they are very strong and they have more power and Israel is that living in the small tribal groups cannot do anything. So Samson went back there and met Delilah. And this is the interesting part. He fall in love with Delilah, of course, just passing time like he want to, and he's not gonna marry. The book say that there is no marital relationship between Samson and Delilah. And Samson, of course, he got into more trouble. Instead of learning from the first mistakes, he keep committing the same mistake over and over. And and Delilah get him into trouble. The same mistake he did, like he did first time with his wife, a no-name woman, and the Palestinians took advantage of that, and they came and asking, they want to revenge from Samson, and Samson is very strong and powerful. They can't do anything to Samson without knowing the secret of his power. So they convinced Delilah to ask Samson to tell the secret of his power. And Samson was stupid enough, and he never learned that this thing had happened to me before. And why she wanna know the secret of my powers? He don't. He never thought of that way. But in the end, of course, he told her everything, and they come and arrested him, and they start torturing him. They start torturing him. Of course, they gouge his hand, they gouge his eyes, and they put him in prison. And finally, God, God didn't leave him there alone. God is always with him. So in the last days of his life, he came back to his sense. He came back to his sense and learned that God is going to deliver him, but this deliver is going to cost him his life. So he did what he did in the temple and revenge and die with so many people. He died with so many people in the temple. From this book, what I learned from this book is that if you read this book, it is hard to figure it out how God is working sometimes. And what comes in my mind is that God is always keeping his promise. Whatever we did or whatever we do in our life, sometimes we turn away from God and we do crazy things. And the promise God made from beginning with us is going to happen. God is going to fulfill. So the promise God made with Samson's parent, God kept that promise. Samson is going to deliver Israel, and he did deliver Israel by killing a lot of Palestinians. Samson killed a lot of Palestinians in his life. He's one person. The first time he killed like 1,000, and on the last time during his death, he died with over 3,000 people. So this kind of deliverance God was delivered is made me think about the promise God made to Abraham in the beginning. God told Abraham that through your children, I'm gonna give you everything, and your descendant will be like the sun or the stars of the sky. And Israel was small there, and Palestine, the Palestine, they are huge people and very powerful. And God was delivering them through one person. Always God is delivering people through one person, which is Abraham. Start from the beginning, and then the line of these judges come there, and the last Jesus was in the line there. And from Jesus, it turned to us. So the deliverance of, we get all this blessing and the promise of God through Jesus. And it is our turn also to come and do the deliverance of so many people who are lost now. We are seeing in our life. So this promise is gonna keep going on and on. Is there any comments or question?
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel about being named after this character?
Oh, I never thought about it, but actually, I was just thinking of name. When I was little, I was thinking that, yes, I'm powerful. I'm strong.
You
So,
focused on one part of the story, but not the rest, huh?
yes, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Well, he certainly wasn't the kind of character that learned from his mistakes, and that's not a very admirable characteristic.
He really considered the mistakes. I think he was just a bad
He was a typical man, full of himself.
guy.
Oh,
I have a question,
Yes.
but the Palestinians today, I mean, how do you feel about the tension between Palestine and Israel today? Or, I mean, does that mean that Palestine is less of a, I mean, I believe that they have an equal stake in their land as Israel does in their land, but I mean, how do you think, does that affect your opinion of?
Okay. You know, when after Jesus, I think that we are all equal. Jesus said that love your enemy as yourself. That means what is happening in Palestine today, I'm not happy with it, but there's nothing we can do anything about it because it involves so many things. But all we can do is encourage the Christians to love each other, so we can show the love to the other side, and we expect them also to show the love to us because we are all children of God. So what is happening there is not really, I don't agree with it. It's not good. Yeah.
There are more Palestinian Christians in Israel today than there are Israeli Christians.
Yes, that's true. Perhaps if the number of Christians are growing in these countries more and bigger, and then the real peace will come there. But otherwise, if there is only Jewish and the number of Christians are very small in these two different countries, and the Muslims are still growing in the other part of Palestine, then this problem will continue to grow over and over. Yeah, so there is no end to this problem soon, unless Christianity spread there.
It's interesting how this problem has roots way thousands and thousands of years old.
That's true.
So one of the things that Samson's name means, you said, was shining, a little sun, a shining light. Yeah. And one of the fertility gods, Baal of, the Philistines, was a sun god. So there's a hint that Samson really, he was a judge of the people of Israel, but he kept flirting with, the fertility cults and the fertility gods, and the wrong god, and picking the wrong women, and, doing the wrong things. But in the end, I guess, by pulling down the pillars of the room and killing himself and everybody in it, he redeemed himself. I mean, this is one of these stories that doesn't play all that well today.
Yes, that's true. And I was thinking that, I say, probably Samson was thinking that if he married Palestinian women, then this marriage will create relationship and build the relation between the two people will grow more stronger. I thought about it that way, but I don't know if that is something.
Yeah. We're giving Samson an excuse, and that's good.
Well, I don't think we should confuse the Philistines with the Palestinians. There's two different groups.
Well, the Philistines were the original Palestinians.
Yeah.
Is that your understanding?
Not really.
Well, are you
No,
sure?
not really. They were from the coast originally.
I think the Philistines are occasionally referred to as part of the, quote, sea peoples.
Yeah,
yes,
from the
that's true.
coast.
Who
Yeah.
sort of took over the area. I get sort of following the fall of the Minoans.
Yeah.
During that time, I've never seen anything referenced that suggested they had a kingdom. It sounds more like it was a culture, if you will. There have been times I've wondered if by any chance they might have also been, quote, the Hyksos, who took over Egypt for a while. But the fact that they introduced a chariot, that doesn't really sound like something that would have come out of the sea peoples. But
Fair enough. So, but nobody knows. You're absolutely right. Nobody knows.
You can think it this way, like the modern Egypt today. You don't call them pharaohs.
No.
But sometimes, there are people in Egypt that tend to lean toward this. We are pharaohs, but actually they are not pharaohs. The same thing might apply to Palestine today. Probably the same, the people of the coast, they come from far east, and they occupy the coastal land of Israel, and they might these Palestinians of today, they might call them, they originated from these people. We can see the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a mixed bag of a life, huh?
It is.
Just
And
like most of our lives.
It really doesn't tell us anything about his early years. It just sounds like the story of the Bible is a accumulation of his life, and kind of the negative parts. It would have been interesting to know what positive things
Didn't
he's
say-
done. But the Bible doesn't
It's
tell
not
us that.
there,
Yeah.
not there.
This,
Well, he was a judge, so he must have done something right.
I think the positive part of it, he was able to destroy the temple, where this temple of idols. And that's the positive part of it. God can see that way, because most of Israelites are going to worship these idols there. So he was able to destroy that temple completely, and then people can come back to the true and living God.
hearing you tell the story of Samson reminds me that God takes all kind of people to do his work. He doesn't just look for people who are, constant and who don't learn from their past. And that gives me hope. Because when I look at what I do, sometimes I think, oh my God, I'm not really in a position to help move anything along. But just hearing what you discussed today, Samson, reminds me that I can just be me and try my best, and God will use me and others as he sees fit.
Yes,
Well, look how
that's
he
true.
used Paul, what Paul was doing in his early years, and how he did a major change and made a huge impact.
Right.
Yeah, we have so many stories like this in the Bible. We start with Moses. Moses killed someone, and God used Moses. And today, if you kill someone, I think you will end up in jail for the rest of your life.
Right.
It's all over.
But unless if God wants to use you, you will be,
I
doing the
remember
bad
when I
works.
was a little. I remember when I was a little girl growing up. My parents, we had 4 kids in the family. They had these LP records that would play with different Bible stories on them, and they would sing the stories. And they used to sing the story of Samson and Delilah was one of them. And I remember as a child thinking, wow, he sacrificed his life so that he could do what God wanted him to do at the end there. It kind of trumps everything else that maybe he didn't learn from his mistakes, etc. So I remember as a child think it was quite an amazing story and inspiring.
Hmm.
Yeah, indeed it is. When you think about it, in the end, he gave his life to do what he thought God wanted him to do.
Amen.
We
Yeah.
can see
What more is there
similarity.
than that? Say what?
We can see the similarity with the Jesus story. Jesus gave his life for the whole world. Samson gave his life to save his people.